Once again, we have a movie that illustrates what I've been saying for years now. Say it with me, everybody. You don't take your ass out to the middle of fucking nowhere. Don't nothing good ever come from it. Arctic Void is brought to us by director Darren Mann and stars Michael Weaver, Tim Griffin, and Justin Huynh. When the power fails and almost everyone vanishes from a small tourist vessel in the Arctic, Fear becomes the master of the three who remain. Forced ashore, the men deteriorate in body and mind until a dark truth emerges that forces them to ally or perish. So the trailer for this movie looked pretty cool. We got these three guys who are trapped in this isolated, deserted old fishing town, and some weird Chernobyl-esque shit's going on. Like all the animals are kind of all fucked up. There's like nobody around. It looks like everybody just left this place in the middle of like dinner or something. One of our characters is pretty much just starting to fall apart physically, and they don't know what the hell's going on, save for one of them we're led to believe might know a little bit more than he's leading on. So this is the basis for a pretty entertaining flick, and yeah, that's exactly what it was. A good portion of this movie I was really into. First off, the movie's shot beautifully. I mean, they got some really pretty scenic shots they got going on in the Arctic here that are just gorgeous. The eventual town that they end up as well looks really interesting. This apparently is a real deserted town somewhere. I don't know why it's deserted in real life. I probably could have done some research before shooting this video, but I didn't. But either way, this is a really interesting looking location. Now the story will keep you really intrigued and guessing for the majority of its runtime. We got weird shit that happens on the boat that gets your gears to turning, and then they end up in this deserted town, and you're really just wondering the whole time, just going through all these scenarios of what's going on here. The movie also does a really good job of kind of making you suspect each of the three characters at one point in time. You know that at least one of these guys knows more than they're leading on. It drops little hints and breadcrumbs as the movie goes on that make you really think about, okay, what does that mean? What's going on with these headphones? Why is this thing over here like that? Why did this person over here see this thing that was really relative information and probably should have told everybody but decided not to? And all along, our three characters are losing their ever-living shit like you do. I mean, honestly, I can't blame them there. This place is creepy as shit, and if I was stuck there, I probably would have just taken off walking in one single direction saying, I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna reach something at some point. Probably would have died, but hey, master of my own fate and all. Our performances overall are all pretty good. There's really only these three guys. We get some other people in the beginning of the movie, but the vast majority of the flick is just these three guys. And each of our leads did an admirable job. There's no performance here that's just like, oh my god, why'd you put that guy in the movie? No, everybody does a fine job. I didn't have any issues with the performances here. Now, I mentioned that the movie looked really good. Gorgeous, in fact, in many parts. However, there is one thing about the looks of the film that left a little bit to be desired, and that would be some of the special effects. Most notably, the CGI effects. Now, there's not a lot of CGI in this movie, but there are one or two moments that it is pretty prevalent, and that would have to do with some of the wildlife that they come across. Now, like I said, it's not a lot, and for the most part, I'd say it looks pretty good, but there is one shot in particular of a seal and a baby seal that comes earlier in the film, and okay, I appreciate what they were doing there, but it really stands out. It doesn't look very good. I think it may be more of an animation thing and less of the design of the actual creature. Either way, the scene really stands out. Everything's looking real nice and gorgeous and all these great looking shots, and then you get that and you're like, oh wait, yeah, that stands out quite a bit. It's not a particularly long shot, but it is kind of an important shot, and it is also one that they talk about quite a bit and they dwell on what happens in this shot. So that kind of makes it stand out. And we do get a couple of other wildlife creatures in the movie that are done with CGI, and they looked fine. I mean, you could tell they were CGI, but they weren't bad looking. I mean, they were okay. But this one in particular, it did kind of pull me out. Might seem like a nitpick, but you know, it is there and it is really noticeable. Overall, though, I gotta say that the movie does look pretty good. Now, while I did enjoy the story of this movie, and I like how it kind of toyed with us and made us think it might be this, it might be that, and kept the gears turning and had you second guessing what everyone's motivations were and what was going on the entire time, I have to say, where it it inevitably ends up going is going to be divisive at best. Now, we do get answers as to what happened and what is happening, and I was really okay with that. It wasn't what I was expecting, honestly, and I was curious as to where they were gonna go with it, but overall, I was okay with the explanation that they gave. Where the problems arise is the very end of the film, which I'm not going to spoil here, but the movie ends, let's just say, abruptly. And not only is it abrupt, but it leaves it just wide open. Like, I mean, ambiguity be damned, this movie's just wide open. You're sitting there, this thing happens, and you're like, what? Wait, there's more, right? That's not the end. Oh yeah, that's the end. Well, I guess there are a couple of conclusions you could come to. I didn't feel like the movie quite gave us enough to have one of those really good ambiguous endings. You know, the ones where you get just a bit of information and you start to thinking, oh, maybe it's this because of that, or it's that because of this, and you know, all that kind of stuff. There's not really a lot of that here. We don't have a ton of information. There's not much there for us to really come to these conclusions. There's really only one thing it could be, and I don't fully get why it would have been that way. I've said it before, ambiguity in the end of a film is a tough thing to pull off. If you do it right, it's great and people will be talking about it online for years to come. But if you do it wrong, it's gonna leave your audience really feeling empty. And unfortunately, while I was really enjoying this movie all the way up to the very, very end of it, when that ending happened and the way they left it, it left me feeling a bit empty. I didn't feel like I got anything from it. I didn't feel like I received that closure that I was looking for. Sure, do we know why the things that happened to these individuals throughout the film happened? Yeah, I mean, we're given a reason at least, but what ends up happening in the end of the movie is just left so wide open that we're like, what? And that is a bit unfortunate because you ended a hell of a movie with a hell of a head scratcher. And I love ambiguous endings, but man, you gotta give me a little something to go on, and they just don't do that here. Guys, overall, Arctic Void was an interesting movie that for the most part, I did really enjoy. It's got some really solid performances, a really interesting story that gets the gears to turning, and while it does have one or two special effects that are a little suspect, overall the movie is gorgeous. It is unfortunate that the ending doesn't quite land, and it does take away from what preceded it a bit. But that being said, this was still a very entertaining, interesting little movie that is absolutely worth streaming.
Across the street.
This movie would have absolutely been worth a rent had they just given us a little bit more with the ending. I didn't mind so much how the movie ended, it was just the way they left it off. They could have just given us a little bit more to go on. But as it stands, it's still worth checking out one night if you're looking for an interesting head scratcher for the evening. So there it is, guys, my review of Arctic Void. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con. If you like video games or you just like to see this asshole right here prancing around like a fucking idiot, then check out my gaming channel Jag. Link in the description. Any support there is appreciated. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Switzerland, or wherever the fuck they were.
Where are you hiding? You know what I care about? I care about why we're still here.
Now, even though I like these kind of movies that are out in the middle of nowhere and bad shit happens to people, it still blows my mind that they continue to make them, that people continue to believe that these fuckers go out to the middle of nowhere and are surprised that something bad happened. Doesn't everybody know by this point that if you go out to the middle of fucking nowhere, bad shit's gonna happen? Nothing good ever happens out there. I recently moved, by the way, and guess where I moved? To the middle of fucking nowhere. So yeah, I guess it's really not that unbelievable then. Either that, or I'm just as fucking stupid as the people in these movies.